Very nice. So let me start with telling you that as you can say, my English is not the best one, but I'll try my best to be clear and simple as possible. So I don't know exactly your painting level of each one of you, so I'm forced to talk briefly about the most important stuff. Probably some of you already know a lot of that, maybe others not. So better talk about it quickly, so we are sure. So let me present a bit. Hi everyone, my name is David, and also known as Rapaz online. I started painting miniatures since early 2000s, I think, when I was 12 years old. And I was into painting more than gaming. Uh, I had also an orc and goblin army, but yeah, I prefer spend my time painting. So my goal initially was to win some Golden Demon prizes because I saw that there was the best, there were the best models, the best painters. So I want to confront with them. And between 2008 and 2011, I managed to win some of them. So I I got my goal. After that, I attend a couple of schools and university in Milan about visual arts and illustration. Now I want to do private online coaching, and I'm producing free material that is what we are using also in this lesson. And I will upload it online for free. And soon I will get also a good camera, and I will be able to make also some good videos. But enough with me, and let's start. Um, so, what makes a well-painted miniature looking so? Um, what can we do to improve? Uh, probably, if probably you can ask to yourself this question, and most likely we will end with different answer um, due to subjective preference and personal taste. But I think that at least we can agree on a few spots, few points from my experience. So that are a strong contrast, and which came from the correct and good use of light, having good colors harmony and a good feeling with colors, having a good smooth technique. For sure it will help, but it's not everything. And then we got something like composition and cool effects. Could it be in non-metallic metal or OSL or particular texture? But let's say that we focus on these two because these are really the fundamentals. You see, the technical aspect of it you can practice on your own, and it's just really spending the time to practice, and you can develop really a good technique just with patience and time. Composition speaks more about maybe sculpting or base building, so it's still relevant, but not it's not really in painting. We can speak about the composition with colors, but it's more color harmony, so we will talk about it. And cool effects are cool and catchy, but they are not the fundamentals. So probably we will get to them later. It's not the starting. Um, so let's see first a couple of interesting tips that you can all apply. Um, First of all, I suggest you to buy at least one or two Martin brushes, because there's also a lot of good synthetic brush, but to really feel the brush strokes, to really being able to control properly the painter, those are better. So Martin there's a lot of different brands you can try. tip I can give you is try to separate two types of brushes. One kind we will use it to just mix the color, to take it from the just to mix it on the palette, and the best one we will just use it to pick the color up and put it on the miniature. Uh, in this way, the good brushes will last a lot longer, so we will spend a lot less money. So as you can see here, the important part is don't overload the bristle of the brush. You don't want to get this close to the metallic part. You want to just use the tip, the point. And don't use too thick colors because, well, if you are very, very, very good, you can also use thick colors and probably get a good result. But at first, to get a smooth finishing, to get a proper blending, um, diluting colors, it's the basic, it's the fundamental really. So try to exercise a bit and have a bit of practice on this stuff. If we talk about painting, we cannot skip a bit of theory. So here you have a chromatic circle. Of course, every one of you already saw one or have one printed, but it's difficult to find a proper one. This one probably is not perfect. I did it myself, but it's pretty accurate. As you can see, we start from the primary colors. That is yellow, magenta, and cyan. If you don't have magenta or cyan, you can just use red and light blue. Would be almost the same. And mixing the primary colors, we get the secondary colors. So if we look at this, we got 12 total colors on the outer wheel, and that's basically all the colors that they exist. Of course, we all know that we miniatures painters have a lot of colors, maybe hundreds and hundreds of them. But if you look closely, we always start from these 12. They are the other are just like maybe a more saturated or desaturated version of it, or maybe there's a bit an effect. Of course, there are then some others colors like metallic paint or fluo paint that are not doable, reachable with this circle. But most of it we can do. We can paint almost everything with just the three primary color and white and black. With those 5 color, we can do pretty much every tonality. But we will go back on this soon. A basic exercise you can do to understand a bit of primary color is to try to reach a skin tone mixing the 3 of them together. As you can see, if you don't have a magenta and cyan, you can use red and blue. And you will see that mixing them together, you will get this realistic skin tone. And varying the quantity of each one of the 3, you can get a different kind of colors that because there's a lot of ethnicities. So for example, this one, it's a little bit orangish. Also this one. This one, there's a bit of purple in it. You can see here on the neck or here. It's a little touch, but it means that on this case, we will have more of cyan and magenta and less yellow. Here, it's more orange, so I will have more yellow and magenta and less cyan. And so on. So you can experiment a bit and check the difference. You can then just use a little bit of white and black to change the value of the skin tone, and try to. This is a pretty useful exercise you can do. Try to get an egg in real life and try to draw it and paint it. It's a simple volume. It's just an oval, so you can do that. And you can see from this picture, egg's color is really, really, really like a human skin. colors, more or less. So if you can try to paint one with these shadows, the lights, you probably get all these colors, and that's perfect for skin tone. So it's a bit of a tip and a good exercise you can do, you can practice. So now let's talk about, because you will see now that we'll talk about colors, and we will use a lot of words, terms, and I want to be sure that we all understand and we know what are we talking about. So the most important two are saturation and value. Here you have some example. The saturation of a color is its intensity or purity. It means that he has no white or black in it. So it's very pure. For example, this Battlecast, I don't know its name, this Age of Sigmar miniature. He has dominant blue and red, also of course a metallic on the armor. And you can see that desaturating it, so putting down the saturation, we get all similar color because we are removing the brilliancy, the intensity of the color. It can be used to achieve a more realistic and less cartoonish result. But we will see later that you need to know how to use the saturation and the saturation both, because in the same subject you will have some area more saturated or not. So it's a concept to be learned. Value, it's like telling likeness or darkness of a color, and it means that how much dark or light is it, and now we will check a good thing here, because if you look at the three primary color, you could say maybe the magenta is a little bit darker than the yellow or the blue, but they are all the same tone. They are all the same value. If you see, this is just the same triangle with no saturation, and you can see it's exactly the same gray. So some colors will look more bright maybe, but it's just an optical illusion in this case. Then we will talk about, we will use the word hue, and it's just another word to telling a tonality or colors, and temperature. We will look at temperature contrast, and so we need to know how to divide colors in warm and cold. It's easily done. You can divide at half here, more or less, the chromatic circle, and all the colors down here, so purple, bluish, and bluish greens, are all cold colors, and on this other part we have the warm colors. Here 3 example. You can see completely different feeling of the piece. When we talk about finishing, we mean the finishing of the material we are trying to simulate. So there will be, of course, a different finishing, and as you can see, with the same color but completely different conclusion. So when I talk about finishing, I mean understanding exactly the material and his texture, and then we can decide what to do and which color to apply. There are 3 basic ways to desaturate colors that are not very used in miniature painting, but traditional painting, 2D painting, yeah, a lot. And it's a tint of a color. It's just adding white to a hue. A tone or a toned color is just adding a medium gray to it, and the shade it's adding black. As you can see, different results, but all 3 of them are just desaturating the colors. So the intensity we have here, we will not have it there. If you play around the saturation and value from one single color, you can get a lot of different possibility and interpretation. Now, there are a lot of different ways to create a good color composition, and most of them are based on harmony and contrast. Um, these are dictionary definition, I didn't wrote myself, but they're pretty accurate. So harmony is the combination of separate but related parts in a way that uses their similarities to bring unity to a painting, drawing, or other art object. So we want related colors, could be like this analogous example. They are related because they are near in the circle, so they are mostly the same or similar. And or another example is monochromatic, where I use a tint. If you see, it's just the red with more white. So we are going back here, and I can use all these different colors that I get, but starting from just one color. So there's two different examples of harmony in composition, and the other is with contrast. And the most famous one is the complementary contrast, and we will talk about that in a second. And it's very useful when you have two dominant colors, just two dominant colors in your piece. If you have three, if you need to have three colors or three interest focus on the miniature, we can split one of the two, because this purplish magenta and this blue mixed together, we get the purple. So we will still be a complementary contrast. But for this part, I suggest you, let me check here. I will give you the link of this video. It's very well done by Blender Guru. He talks about 2D painting, but you can apply it perfectly to miniatures. At the beginning, is just talking about value saturation, like we said before, and then he starts to analyzing one by one, the different color harmonies you can apply. So monochromatic and other, we said, like this is analogous, triadic, and there's a lot more. This is a not very long, but a 23-minute long video, so he explained better with more time what we said, and it's very, very well done. So I will give you the link at the end. So talking about the complementary color, they are the opposite colors on the wheel, and they get the strongest contrast possible. But it's peculiar because yeah, they are very contrast. There's a lot of contrast between them, but they are also very harmonious together. So let's see them briefly. Yellow, it's complementary. It's orange. Of red, it's green. And if we start changing a bit the yellow to the orange, you can see the purple changing to the cyan, blue, and so on with the reds. So if we try to mix two complementary colors together in equal parts, we will get this kind of gray, and it's really, really, really good because if you just look at a normal gray, you will see that there's no color in it. It's just white plus black together. And as we see before, and we will see later, black and white are not actually colors. It's the pure darkness or pure light. And so this kind of gray that I get mixing the two complementary colors, it's a better gray to paint than the normal gray. You'll get a little bit of saturation, slightly, in them, and when you will go to highlight them, you will get a lot more colors in it, and it's nicer for the eyes. Very, very appealing. If you just add a bit of complementary, so not in equal parts, but just a bit in your medium tone, it's a good way to have a first shade of color. As you can see, it's not that darker than the previous one, but a little bit. So it's a good first natural shadow that you can use. Of course, then we can mix black and darker colors to get more and more dark. But this is a good first step. These are miniatures painted by Martin Gumatz, one of my favorite painters. And here you can clearly see what we talk about complementary colors. This one it's all done with red and greens, so opposite color on the color wheel, and look at the impact. This is very similar, but as you can see, the green it's a little bit desaturated, and there's a bit of a blue turquoise in there. And so it's the red. The red it's a desaturated red. It's more like a brown, but the dominant is the red one. And slightly toward the orange, because the green is there's a bit of also of blue, so the reddish will go a little bit on the orange, and that's another complementary contrast. This is very similar if you see all three. We can say it's all red and green almost. This one it's a bit more red, oranges, red, and so the green will be a little bit more bluish, and as you can see. And look the impact they have. It's wonderful, amazing. He's using it very well, and nothing to say. I will give you can check him on Instagram. Martin Gumas, very good painter. Um, so values are really one of the most important parts to understand, to really master it. And this is an exercise you can do at home. So normally we use this 9-step value scale, in which has the 1, it's pure white, 9 pure black, and at 5 we have the mid value, so middle tone. And as you can see, there's 3 steps for the light, before the pure white, and 3 steps for dark. If you can, with acrylics and or pencils, if you like, to reproduce this blending, so all blend together and all separate, but you can still see the blend together. It's very useful because you can see directly and improve your sensibility on this. We will talk. The values are always a part of what we talk in colors about colors. So be sure to do this to understand it. We can see contrast in real life, all thanks to the light. For this reason, light is one of the most important part of a painting, not only miniature but also 2D painting, because we can bring depth to a piece and make it more alive, and of course help with the three-dimensional feel. Look at this, just 3-tone, very similar. Okay, you can still see the shapes and volumes, but with just 3 other more of light, it became alive with all the 3D. We can apply it to miniatures, so without a source of life, miniature, as you can see here, would look flat and not unattractive to the eye. So we want to get a really good contrast, but trying to save a bit of saturation in our contrast. Because if we just add black for shadows and white for light, as we saw before, was like doing some tint and shade, and that are a way to desaturate color. So doing that, we will desaturate the blue too much, and it wouldn't look this good. Here you can see there's a bit of uh, light blue in here, and a little bit of purple, maybe perhaps in the shadows. So try to not lose the saturation while you are highlighting and shading. Highlights, so lights, you can use it also to suggest textures of different. Here's a true metal and here's a non-metallic. You can see here this little bit of texture, or here this scratches and stuff. So little touches, and I can create these illusions, even if there aren't in the sculpture. Please don't use pure white to highlight. You can only use it really on small details and very few little areas. Because, as I said before, pure white and pure black are not colors. So mixing them to a color will, for sure, desaturate it and make it less attractive and less catchy. So let's add white to colors for bring them a little bit brighter, but not use just white. Instead, you can think about the atmosphere you want to create with your miniature and say, okay, for this atmosphere, the font, the source of light would be this, and you choose a color. It could be like these examples, a really bright color. The important thing is it is not pure white. So find a color good for, as you can see, a cold light or a warm light or something different, and try to mix that color, the color of light, with every medium tones of your miniature. So you can apply the basics, the flat base on every color, and then you mix that base with the color of light. This way, every color will communicate between them, and will be there will be a unity, color unity that will be very good. Um,
David,
yeah.
before going on to the next step, I want to ask if people in the
Hmm.
chat here have any questions or not so far. Some people are not on their phone and can't see multiple screens, so maybe if there's anybody that has a question, you can speak out,
Yeah, yeah.
do a
Now,
small round of questions, and then we can continue.
now or never. Yeah,
I
because
have a question.
yeah, tell me.
You talked about mixing the I think complementary colors to get grays. Is there any good place to find mixing which complementaries gives which type of gray? Like if I want a blue gray.
You can check it by your own. I mean, this one, as you can see, there is a bit of purple in it. This is like a brown. This is like a little bit of a blue. It's very soft. Um, so probably this one purple was like or with this one with the purple or this magenta.
Right.
So they are very similar. The more I go back, I zoom out, the more similar they are. But if you really look closely, you can check
Yep.
some similarity. Try. You take the complementary color, try to mix them, and because I can show you when I will buy the camera. Of course, I will do so you can see
I'll
really. But yeah,
I'll go try it out.
yeah, try that. Uh, just remember that every one of these color came from the primary color. So uh, here, just think about that to simplify what you see and what you want to do. So in this case, there's more magenta than yellow or because you see when we speak about complementary color, we are talking about or primary color or secondary color or tertiary color, and each one of them I can made it with primary color. So in here there will be a little bit more cyan and magenta. Here a little bit more yellow. That's why it became a little bit brownish. And here a little bit more yellow and cyan, and it's a bit greenish or bluish. So yeah, but try yourself, and because I can speak now for hours to explain you, but you try one time and you get it.
I will. Thanks.
No problem.
I have a question as well, if that's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, for certain models, you want to use a black, right? For like the hilt of something, or you want to, I don't know, the case of a gun. Would
Mhm.
you then always approach it by mixing primary colors together to approach it to a black, but never start from black?
Yes, black and white are two difficult colors to get a good result. I feel good by starting not with a black, so um, I will mix I don't know purple or brown or red with half and half with black, and I will start from there as a base. Uh, in this way, I can work also with shadows because if you start from pure black, you can just work your way to the light. There's nothing more dark than black.
Yeah. There's really nowhere to go, I
Yeah.
guess. Huh?
So let's try to start in a midway, like a dark gray, colored gray, and there you can first apply a few shadows, then a few lights, and so on, so on, and you can make it a little bit more alive as a color, and not too boring. And I can suggest you to highlight it black with a skin tone, because it get a lovely shading and the colors.
And when you say highlight, do you mean like an edge highlight or more of a wash over it, or is that
Yeah,
for later?
we will talk yes a bit now, but highlight it's everything. If we turn back on, where is it? On this one, highlight is from mid value to white to top.
Oh, perfect.
So
Yeah.
this tree, it's highlight. This
Yeah.
is
So not necessarily the technique, but more of the end result. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So remember that here you don't have saturation because it's pure black. Here you don't have saturation, so you need to work if you want to work with colors in this range or this range. So from mid to top and to mid to bot.
Yeah. So just make sure you start in the middle. All right.
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, also for you, try it, take a picture, post it, and we will talk better about it.
We have a question from Sadi in the chat.
Mhm.
How would using complementary colors in comparison to contrasting colors affect the vibe of your model? Like if you're going for a greener highlight and more of a red shadow, or compared to a green highlight with a blue shadow, like what's that difference in using those complementary
Yeah.
or contrasting colors?
So let's say that in fantasy art, you can more or less use every color you want because it's most of it. It's all about getting a flashy end result. But these things that I'm talking about is just to get a more realistic paint job. If you look at the shadows in nature, um, colors are always a bit softer than what we see in fantasy art or fantasy movie. And so what I'm telling about the complementary color before here is that you can see it's not of a strong shadows if you put the complementary color together. It's just a transition to get a little bit more realistic and natural look. Maybe that's not what you want because you want a flashy miniature. Then you can you can skip this part. But so you can use maybe the complementary contrast on the miniature. So for example, on the miniature we saw here, and you say, okay, there's a lot of green. I want the contrast to pop out to be visible, and so you choose specific areas. And also here, if you look at closely, we have a spot here, a spot there, and a spot there, and this is making a triangle. And it's like a triangle. It's like an arrow, and it's pointing to his face. So if you keep the contrast on the spot of the miniature that you want the focus there, you want the more attention to it, then yeah, you should put a lot of contrast and use complementary colors. But let's say in art, you see a little part is theory, but the most of it's interpretation. It's letting go. So it's just a basic information to have on the back of your mind.
But would that mean that if you use more complementary colors, that you get a more of a natural feel to your miniature in
It's a natural, yeah, natural because let me think about. For example, a green tree. Trees are green. The leaves and stuff. It's all green, and there is a lot of vegetables and trees that have red fruits. and that's a perfect example of complementary constants. Or just think about the Christmas. The two colors of Christmas are red and green. Why? It's like a design thing. So it's how our eyes work, and that's it. It's very 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 pleasant. It's very very effective for the eye. If you vary, if you change a bit the color so you don't get the perfect complementary, and you paint it well, it will be still a very good result. This is to enhancing the most possible way the colors, to really gives you a feeling, an atmosphere. But we will
Okay.
see better in a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry again for my English.
That's fine.
So, should we continue?
Yeah, I think I don't see any questions anymore, or nobody speaking up. So I think we're good.
Um, Talking about lights, I want to show you a couple of links. I will post them too. And the first one is this one. It's a very well done. You can see I can rotate this one as I want. I can um, I can change the secondary light on it. Wait. Okay. I can change the secondary light. I can start it, and I can zoom in, zoom out. I can stop it when I feel like that's what I want. And it's a good way to start analyzing how light changes shapes. And if you're painting a face, and there's also a good reference, you can stop it when you say, okay, this is cool. And this is very, very, very useful tool. I will link you. Another one is this one, a little bit simpler, but still effective. So we have basic shapes, and you can spin the light. You can change the orbit, because now we will talk about volumes, and understanding volumes is very very important. So we can simplify every single volume in a to its basic shape, and for example a cube, a sphere, cylinder, etc. And here you have a good example. So what I mean by volume, of course the entire miniature is a volume by itself, but what my brain and my eyes are doing before painting is just really separating, dividing every single shape that I can see. This is a very fast work, but as you can see, it still works a bit good. And so I just separate every single part, and on each one of it, I will put a shadow, a midtone, at least these three steps: a shadow, a midtone, and a light tone. Even done, you can see very, very, very randomly and quickly, but it's just to get this 3D effect that here, yes, of course I can tell this is a 3D statue, but not quite there. Um, After this is just to work on the volumetry. I can add the maximum. This is just a grayscale, so it's easier for us to see the values of a tone. Then I will add the darkest color and the pure light, and look how it changes from here to here. Why? Because with this part we are also cleaning a bit the finisher. We are defining better with a light here and a shadow there. Pam, this volume it's defined, not like this. And of course, using the lightless color for all the edges, because the edges are the most, as we know from GV miniature. It's the best part to put the final highlight. So with the biggest contrast, we get the definition, the clean look, and it's way better. The final step that I will do and recommend, it's try not to have the same intensity in all the model. For example, here the light here, it's this color, it's the same that there is here, it's the same that there is there, it's the same here, the same there, the same there. So I don't want, because now this Space Marine is no more flat, not like this, but it's still in a way flat because it's the same in all the different places. So if I take like only these three steps and I go dark as I go down, and I wanna take the light part on the shoulder, on the head, on the chest, in this area. So this will become the focal point, and because here it's all the same. I mean, okay, you can say okay, it works, yeah, but this is coming out really good, really nicely. So this is just for understanding the volumetry and how to divide in volumes. So what are the important things we want to be sure to get right? As we see just now, the focal point, the contrast, saturation, which I will speak a little bit better now, and these two last part that are a little bit more complex, but nothing exaggerate, and that are color rotation and uniform from font of light. So I will open now this picture on Photoshop, but first let's just understand how the color pick works on Photoshop. So as I move horizontally, I get more saturation for the right and less saturation on the left. If I move up, I go brighter and darker down, so the value. And this bar on the side is just for picking the tonality or hue of a color. Notice in this example that this is the basic old way of painting miniatures, just highlighting the edge, giving a shade, a general shadow, a wash maybe, and that's it. And it's still working. It's not that bad. Pumping the contrast, we can get already a way better result, more 3D. But just adding white and black to the same color, to the original medium color, you can see it's first of all it's desaturated a bit because we said black and white are no color, and yeah, it's good, it's 3D, but it's not real. It's not popping off. This one starts to be like that. Why? Because we exaggerate a bit the contrast even more, and we added different colors. I added the purple there, and so a bit of yellowish, orangish on the light, always for complementary color. And if we look distant from it, you can tell this one is more alive. It's still red. You can say, yeah, that's a red color, but if you look closely, there are probably less part painted red than other colors. So of course it's not that easy to achieve, but we will try. Let's now watch some of your and some Italian guys miniature, and what about what we were talking before lacks and how to apply it. This is from Lentasi. Very good model, very good paint job, a lot of colors, very cool effect here on the sword. But as you can see, just adding a little bit of contrast so more shadows, more light. Look at his face in this part. There are light on this eye that here there are not, and it's make it a little bit more 3D, more alive. Um, and as you can see on the fabric here, um, we want to get and to maintain a bit of saturation in the color. Here he's just losing too much of it with shading and shadowing and the lighting. It's not easy to get a proper balance, but that should be our aim. So you can see I pump up the contrast on the blade, on everything almost, but especially on the blade and this part. And now we will see why. Um, and it was very already a very good work. This is from Tard, Robin, and same stuff here. I just pump up some light, some shadows, so the contrast, and being careful to not lose all the saturation. You can say that this is still a reddish color, still orange, still skin tone, but they are very different, even if they are the same color. Just a matter of saturation. This is just a sword by Wutan, and same stuff. I pump up the contrast and add a little bit more color or reflexes in this case. This is from an Italian guy. Contrast, saturation, and this particularly needed a little bit more light in general, more brighter areas to be more readable for the eyes. And this one is a non-metallic uh, effect by another Italian guy, and it was pretty good already. But look with some a little bit of definition, which is made by contrast and some adds of colors. Look how much more alive it'll become. Um, and also it suggests a little bit more of a metal material than this could be also a rock or a stone as a finisher, but still pretty good. Um, Here you can see I just added a bit of purple in the shade of the shadow of the yellow because it's a complementary, and you can see it's harmonious. It's very cool. Last, skin tone. Look how much it changed. Just adding a bit of contrast. You can see here light and mid and shadow are very similar as a tone. Here they're a little bit more. It's clearer that this is the shadow, this is lighter, and of course saturation a little bit more. As you can see, I'm not using pure color, so too much saturated. If not, we will add too many colors, and it will be too a distraction for the eyes, having too many colors all around. But in the right places and in the right amount, it makes really a good difference. So let me open this on Photoshop. Okay, let me take the pencil. So when we talk about focal point, what is it? It's of course the entire miniature is important. We don't want any part that you will not look at it, but we can say there's parts that are more important than others. Let me do this. For example, in this work, already from this version, you can say that the focal point is here, and then of course we get the face and a little bit of the expression of the beast. But as you can see, this part in the middle is where our focus is. Why? Because if we put too much attention on here, it will be not a balanced composition, because there's to focus on the top and the rest of the figure of the most of it with no focus. So it's better to have here a good focal point and a bit on the face. This is a better composition to get. So what I did, I just in this area, as you can see, work better on the color, um, darkening a little bit some shadows, and saturating. If now I came here and with the color pick, and now you can look on the right here, the colors that I'm picking. You can see that most of them, now I will select others, are very, very, very on the left side of this, which means they are very, very desaturated. A little bit less, but still, here's something a little bit more saturated, but almost never behind the half. Even the blue, you can see it's the saturated blue. Even this color. Okay, now I am selecting randomly. You can see that most of them, they are here. And it's now I try to paint also some very saturated color on the side, and you will see that saturating color is not the way, just like not saturating them, because this color and this color are a bit too much if I put them here. It's too cartoonish, it's too unrealistic. So I want the dominant, so the red and the blue dominant, but let's say now the saturation here. We are already toward the middle. In the dark area, even more saturated. Red, same. Of course, as we move on to the light, the colors start to get desaturated, but as I told you before, because we had some white. Even the face, I put a bit of reddish and under the nose, under the eye, and the ear. And even this dark blue, yeah, it's probably the most desaturated color of all, but a little bit more saturated than this part. And I see that Lentasi already worked on it and made it better. And on this, you clearly see more saturation and more contrast. Look at here, this color. It's not that dark. It's not down here, and it's very desaturated. Here, my color for the shadow, it's darker and a lot of more saturated, which means that saturating color gives them more weight, metaphorical weight. So if here I want a very deep, good shadow, very fat shadow, I will take some saturated color, dark color. And that's it. You can see also here on the foot. I can see the pinch of the highlights, the place are correct. It just need a little bit more definition, and definition is just as you can see from the fabric. I'm just dividing the volume. So let's go back. Okay, if this is my volume here, like this triangle. At the same time, I have okay, let me draw it here. Okay, at the same time, I want to break free. No, I want to have a general contrast. So this is my middle tone. I want darker on the bottom. And I want it clear, brighter on the top. So light, mid, and dark. And there's this composition in here. It's difficult to see it because on it there is all this definition and separation, because now I just divided in a lot more volumes. Like every single fold, it's like a new triangle, okay, that I'm gonna treat it the same way as this one, as the overall one. So this way you see every single fold, every single volume has its light on the top, medium tone in the middle, and dark on the bottom. And that's it for everything. Lastly, we said also, because now we are talking about focal point, we are talking about contrast, we're talking about saturation, but what about colors, rotation, and uniform form of light, font of light? Colors rotation, it's if you want to make a realistic atmosphere, you want to mix the color. Now explain you better. As you can see in the shadows of this blue, there's a bit of this reddish. You see here, a little bit here. Not too much, but if you just add a bit, look how more interesting it becomes. First of all, because we have temperature contrast, as we said before. So warm color, red, and cold color, the bluish. And then because they are near each other, so there will be for sure some reflection, some light bouncing from here to here. So it's a good way to think about it. It's just that they are sharing, okay, the colors. So in the shadow of this one, I put a bit of red of this color. In the shadows of the red, as you can see here, I put a little bit of the blue that I have there, which makes a little bit of a purple color if you want. And even here that I have this color for the light, almost bright yellow, I will highlight the color here slightly with this yellow. Now I exaggerate a bit just for understand. But as you can see, there are under this kind of thinking. But as you can see now, these, as I told you, are all different people miniatures. But we will see that the problem are exactly the same. So for me, it's like the same people, the same person. Also here, third. So where is it the focal point? Well, in this case, the volume of this miniature is more or less just like a circle, no? So it's not the most interesting volume to talk about, but I can say this part. I want the interest here, the focus here. Why? Because of course there's the expression of the face. They're hungry, the teeth, the tongue. There's more interesting part. Here is just all skin. Yes, I can paint it a little bit different or stuff, but I want the focus on the face, no? Usually the focus of a miniature is on the face or on the top part of it. So this one was a strange case already. So as you can see here, the most contrasted part are in this area that I just drew. And here I want my maximum light. As I go away from this point, from this spot, my lightning will start to become a little bit darker and darker and darker and darker, and also flat if you want. So let's pump up the contrast where you want the focus. That's the first thing. Even on a simple sword, you see more contrast, more color, but where is the focal point here? I will say here. And why? Because it's all the same, this sword, so there is no a face or something that will make it more interesting. But if, let's say I put here the focal point, it's too distant, too far from the real focus of the miniature, so the face, the hand, the chest a bit, so this part. So this will be a little bit distracting if I add here the focus. So I want it a little bit more here, so I have this line. and this part of interested. So even on a simple surface, you can apply this concept. On this one, the focus, well, it's easy. It's more or less like here. And so the brighter color will be on the face. And as we are moving out of it, colors just became a little bit flatter and less saturated. So focus, we get focus when the lights are intense and the color is saturated. Here the same, we have this part, which is our focus. And you can see it's very brighter than what it was here. Here probably the same intensity we have on the face, we have on the shoulder, on the feet down here probably. There I made sure that I got more light here. This is a burst, so it's difficult, probably more difficult to say, but of course the focus it's just on the face. And look how, if you look at this photo, you will say, yeah, the face is not done very well, but neither the hat, neither the hair, neither the fabric. Just fixing the face, all the rest could be just okay like this. And most of it I didn't touch it. Why? Because the focal point. Sorry. Why? Because the focal point it's taken care of. So this is contrast, saturation, focal point, and the colors rotation. So making the colors right. I didn't speak about that. So here you can see that there's in this part there's a bit of orange and yellow. That is what I pick up from here, for example. You can see that in this part under here, like here, a bit of there. There's a bit of this dark magenta purplish color. Also down here a bit. So they are communicating. They are sharing. Colors are sharing. There's also a bit of greens all around, but a few touches, nothing too serious. Also on this one, why here I put a little bit more color. You can see that this blend up here or up there is just a bluish, light blue transition. Here I had, if you look closely, there's a bit of yellow, orange, then it became green, then it became purple. Why? Because this was the focus. And of course the purple armor is close. It's here. So a bit will reflect, the color will reflect on the sword. Also here, if you want, there's this reddish brown that it's used also for a bit of on the metal part, a bit on the skin. So just try to make colors go all around. If I zoom here, you can see really how many colors I put in here. A bit of blue, that is this color of the freehand on the shield. A little bit of yellow or oranges, really smooth, like here. That is this color. Purple. And of course, if I put all this color in the same place, you wouldn't recognize them. So it's choosing and understanding why and where to put more saturation. But as you can see, it's all around. Look at this, the knees, without, with. It's became alive, really. Also in here, you can tell there's a bit of the bluish, the blue, the cyan that he used for the fabric. I just put it a bit in the shadow here, there, a little bit here, here. Few touches on the chin, under the chin. But it really improves the final look. So this is a color rotation. And then let's talk a bit about uniform font of light. So for example, in this model, it's a little bit more complex, but later we can also talk about that. If you look closely here, you will see that every light that I painted, it's related to the source of light. So if and this is also interpretation. I mean, usually models are painted like with zenithal light, but you can. It's your choice. As I show you before with the head here, uh, changing the light, it changes really the interpretation of it, the look of it. Everyone with a light under the chin will look a little bit scary, even a child. And so it has to do a lot with interpretation. But for this, I choose a source of light that will be like not really perpendicular, but a little bit on the frontal. And so first, as I said before, let's try to divide in volumes the figure. So we'll take this is a volume because I can clearly see that shape, and it's like a cut off, cut out from the rest. Here the nose, it's another shape. Here we have this one, and we could divide it also in this one. Here is another volume, this big one, and so on, so on. The tongue probably is one single volume or two because it's cut in half. So I'm just really mentally dividing all these volumes. And then I say, okay, the lights come from here. So I want to put all the faces of these volumes that are facing the source of light. I want to put them with a bright color. Of course, I can do that for every single one of this spine. I just do it quickly just to understand. But if now I remove this layer, that's exactly what I did. You see? Of course, the more we go far from the focal point, so this part, I will don't care too much about contrast, about strong light, and that's very useful. If not, I will put all the contrast all around. It will turn flat. So I put contrast not to get it flat, but I put it everywhere, and now it's flat again. So it's really a balance, finding the right balance. Even here, it's just two volumes, so it's not the best example. Here we start to understand it better. If you look at how we did it, he just said, okay, every single part that is the outer part of a volume, I will put it a little bit less bright, and that's correct. But let's first say a couple of things. When you are painting, practically you are just moving around pigments of the color. You are pushing the pigment, really. Of course, the more diluted the color will be, the less pigment there will be inside. So it will be just a glaze or a velature. But what we want here is to analyze, yes, the volume, and to say, okay, don't lose the focal point. So the focal point is the face. It means that all my brush strokes, the light ones, at least for the highlights, will go in this direction. Toward the top, of course, because the light come from here, but also toward the focal point. So it's like having a lot of arrows, a lot of, signals that say, hey, look at me, look at me, look at here. This is my focal point. And so if you can see here, they do like this. Here they turn around like that. Here there are these lines. Okay, it's like the light are carrying you here. Of course, it's not so easy immediately to understand it, to get it, and to do it right. But the more you start thinking about this and you start to looking this way, you will see that it's really what makes the difference. Also here, if you look at the most brighter lights, it's just the shape here of the shoulder. And so like this, here there's a bit there, and here there's like a diagonal light here. There I have a focal point here, a focal point there, a focal point here, focal point here. Yeah, yeah, it's all the same, you see. Here, if you look closely, this bright and this big of a area, it's not that big, but in confront with the other, yeah. Here we have just a little line. Here a little line. Here just the edges. Here a little bit on the chest, a little bit more because they are bigger volumes. But the most of it is this triangle here, a bit here, and of course the head. This way, okay, now I get first to look at the face, the shoulder, and it's really like a triangle again. So triangle as shapes are very, very important because they are really arrows. They bring you, they carry you. More or less the same. So when we are painting a light, yeah, we wanna have this direction. So I wanna push the pigments of the color toward the light. The most bright part of the volume, I wanna push the pigment there. So my brush strokes will be like this. If I'm applying shadows, it's the contrary. So if now I want to, let's say, put a little more of a complementary color. So maybe let's search for a red one. Okay, too much. First, let's look at the point, the spot. Maybe I will put a little bit here, down here, down there. Now it's too much, but it's just to show you. So my brush strokes will be, let me turn down a bit of the opacity. So in here, when I use Photoshop and I use opacity, it's like in a real life meter painting using dilution. So the less opacity I use, it means the more you have to dilute the color to get the same result. So and I will put like 30, 23, 25. And so my brush strokes, they will never be from the bottom to the top because I'm applying a shadow here, even if it's a colored one. So all my strokes are from the top to the bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. In this case, because it's a shadow. Also here. So I will do like this. Start here and bring the color down. Why? Because when I take out, remove the brush, when I remove it, there it's where the a bigger drop of color will drop. So if I'm painting with this color, I want the big drop of color and pigment in this point, not here. There is fucking my work, you know. So I want that down here. So the brush strokes, the direction of the brush strokes, that's very important. Try to not miss it. Now it's more of a OSL effect, but still, I can reducing it a bit. And you can see already from here, look at much more alive, it seems, than just green. Probably here I will already put a little bit of the warm color. I can't remember. Like this, oh yeah, baby. Way better, no? You can do that all around. So, don't forget, these are the important aspects. Make the colors rotate through the figure. Font of life, it has to be clear where the light is coming from. And don't lose the contrast and the saturation. So pump them toward your focal points of the figure. So if there are
David,
any, yeah,
I want to do another round of questions if
yeah, yeah, yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For anybody that has a question, just be sure to pop it. I mean, it's a lot of information, and we've all been looking like noobs so far, I guess.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I have a question. If I'm,
Yeah, yeah. Tell me.
where would you advise, like, just said a noob, to start? As in, you just gave a few examples on how to practice, but what would you do to start off this?
I will start by exercising with primary colors because when I speak about saturation, the true saturation it's from there, from them, the primary color. So I wanna, you should start from that and really get used to understand the primary colors. And so the exercise with the eggs could be a very good example. And basically, really, the best way to paint to understand it's being able to see. I talked about a lot of stuff because I want you to start understanding. Oh, these things are there. You know, probably I'm not looking at them specifically because they are put all together in a balanced way, so it's not that obvious. But it's just, trust me, observation. It's the key. If you all this stuff that I'm talking about, I studied in classical 2D paint, and it all became from the observating and observation and studying of reality, all from there. So we are not talking about some fantasy stuff that we made off. It's everywhere. These things that I'm talking about today are everywhere. So now you can start to, okay, now I can start um, using a little bit more the word saturation to understand really what it means. Now, so you walk around and you look at colors and you say, okay, what are the most saturated color I can find? And you can see that in nature there are not so many. Probably there are the most saturated colors are on poisonous animals, on specific fruits, and they have a purpose. You know, they are saturated for a reason. It's not just like, oh yeah, put there a bit of of saturation. Um, and it's the same aspect I was talking about you. So why it became the focal point, because so now everyone can see me. So now the bird can hit me as a fruit and do their job, or because my colors will scare other animals. Uh, there's always a reason, but you can really study it from reality. The way to practice it, it's just paint as normal as you would do, like for example all these left examples, and then you look at it and you say, okay, where is the saturation? For example, in this soldier, the saturation that he puts, it's here. It's on. Oops, sorry. It's on the shield. No, and oops, another layer. And why there? I mean, it's alpha of the figure, and it's on the side. Not very smart move. Um, I want the focal point here. So it's just okay. Try it. As I told you before, the technical aspect of it is just developing the techniques, the control of the brush. You can apply the few tips that I said before on how to pick up the color with the brushes, and you can start. Take a miniature that you already painted, maybe that you are not 100% convinced of, and uh, and try to apply this part. Uh, it's easier. Tard can probably tell you better, but it's easier when you I have a picture like this and I can tell you, okay, look at this, look at here, and now look at how it turns out. So the same. Try a couple of experiment, take some pictures, post it, and you will see that.
Rapaz, it's
Mhm.
Roel here.
Hey.
Are you maybe willing to do like one or two or maybe three like explanations from the people, so that they should like now, let's say the followers shoot a picture of your one of your favorite miniatures with a black background or a white background,
Mhm.
put it in the chat, and at the end of the masterclass, we will pick some, a few out, and maybe
Okay.
you can help them
Yeah.
out with some live feedback and
Of
criticism.
course. Of course.
Are you
If
willing to do that?
Of course, of course. Now probably there's no time now to do this masterclass, but
No.
look, I have already one of yours, me old me, old
Cheater.
miniature
Yep. Okay.
to,
Gonna bro.
to prepare, and it was just
Okay.
like to understand in a few steps how to bring lovely but mediocre work to maximum
Oh, this
possibility. So yeah,
hurts.
for sure.
So, followers, Patreon, no, Discord users, shoot a picture of your favorite miniature with a white or black background.
Mhm.
Drop him in the chat talk, in this masterclass
Yeah,
talk.
or the minute that you are you said, okay, now I stopped it because I can't make up my brain or on how
Yeah,
to perfect.
and then in the following days we'll give you a feedback on it if you
Yeah,
like that. So, um, do that. And also, are there any more questions? Just drop them in the chat.
yep,
Yep. David, I got one.
yeah.
Um, is there like, I think maybe I just speak for myself, but I think more people have this problem. Like you put so much hours into this single miniature that you're working on.
Hmm.
Like for example, take Lentisi's example. Like you can look at that miniature and say it's finished,
Yeah.
but of course, putting more effort into it gets it a lot more vibrant, a lot more popping, a lot more nicer. Is there a good way to ensure your previous work? Like something that I struggle with myself is that I put a lot of work into a small piece and I have
Hmm.
to paint the piece next to it. What if I accidentally fuck up, or what if I accidentally is there like a some kind of good way to preserve your previous paintwork?
Um, well, the best thing is just to learn the most you can for every single miniature. The more it has some flaws, some the problems, it's just a better exercise. It's just uh, it's just teaching us the most more things. So very welcome. Like yeah, you can check your old works and see the progress, or okay, see this is a difficulty that I have every single time in every miniature. Um, but it's just I can tell you very honestly, it's consciousness.
Yeah, and I also think that if you really paint the separate parts from like the start to finish, and then you do the part next to it from start to finish, then it's
Mm.
way bigger chance to make mistakes than
Yeah, yeah.
if you paint the whole mini at once. So
If
if
you
you
knew it perfectly, yeah, you could do that.
yeah,
Yes, you could. But if not, yeah, you are
yeah,
complicating a
and so
lot.
probably you just start with the mid-tone all over the mini,
Exactly,
and
exactly.
then work to the shadows, and then work to the light, and do it all at the same time.
Yeah, for example, here you can just divide it in color spots. I mean, here there's all this spot of bluish. You see on the face, on the blade, on the stuff. Here we got some greenish or yeah, turquoise, and so on, a bit of here, then there's the yellow. So first part is just to understand these spots of color. Of course, then every single one has changes. Every single color, if you look closely, it became in a certain point more pinky, more bluish, more reddish. But it's like imagine a not good resolution picture, and just zoom in it, zoom, 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 zoom. You get the point when you have only pixels, and you will see that, yeah, if you zoom out, it will be a red one or a red shape or color. What is it? But if you look closely, there's not two the same two color in two different pixels. It's almost like every little difference that makes sense at the end if you zoom out. So it's start from the basic colors of your miniatures, and that speaks about the feeling that you want to give to the miniature. For example, I go back to the Martin. There is a- here. Here is he decidedly choose. Okay, I want the green. Probably here it started with I want the green, and then okay, so let's paint a reddish skin tone. But if you if you start from the model, no, for example, here the biggest area is the skin tone, or here it's all fabrics. You can say, okay, I want this part of this color. Now, if this part is of this color, what other color should I have to balance it? Or what other color should I use to get my desired feeling of the miniature? Uh, and so he's asking question. If you just go on blindly, you will maybe you do something good, but you don't recognize it, or you are not able to play around with it.
Yeah.
So just start from the
So just
from
starting from your mid-tone, work your
mid-tone.
way to your
You
first
choose one.
shadow.
You choose one or two colors at start.
Yeah. But
Maximum
it's
two.
basically just progress on the work you've already done. Start slow, take a one color to the next, and work your
Exactly.
way up to
Exactly.
you to
Exactly.
the final result.
Little tips are, as I told you before, try to find one color for the light, the color for the light, and add it to all the other colors. So I will not have a red that is that I highlighted it with pinky, and then blue that I highlighted it with turquoise, and then no, let's take one color, the color for the light, and that color I will add it to every single of my medium tones.
Yeah.
This way, there will be already a good atmosphere, a good feeling overall, and then it's just being more, yeah, more good on color theory, or exploring little details or little color changes, changing a bit the saturation. Because if you look at the air, of course, these are similar dominant color but completely different results. So just varying a little bit, you can change most of it, uh, of the feeling, of the final feeling.
Yeah.
So let's
I,
just maybe start with your favorite colors,
yeah.
and you say, okay, what's the best way now to use this color, or what's my way, my best way to use this color?
Okay.
Well, Tart's favorite
I
color is green, so he
I
needs to use that more.
I still got a question from El Sadi again.
Mm-hmm.
El Sadi asked for the example that you did with the orc, where you're drawing the red into the shadows to show how
Mm-hmm.
you would paint the shadows. His question is, do you plan the shadows midway during your painting process, or would you glaze in the shadows afterwards?
Uh, this is personal taste because everyone has his path, his process. Um, I feel comfortable with alternating shadows and lights. So probably I will start from middle tone. I will just applying a couple of lights, highlights, then a couple of shadows, then a couple of final highlights, then a couple of final shadows, and then blended all together with some other colors, and maybe in this case the red one. So in this case, first of all, I would just as I did here, I will start with the, and I really start use the color that I already used, so I wasn't changing the atmosphere. I said, okay, just let's make the lights more visible, more in a bigger area, and that's it. Dividing every single volume, like the shoulder and the biceps are like a small sphere, etc. And when I see, okay, now the contrast is there, now the volume is realistic, but it's just the green. So it's realistic, yeah, but it's boring a bit. I want it to be a little bit more yeah, alive or vibrant. And so just adding if you add this red, well, for example, I can start the same skin tone from this red and just leaving out a little bit of the area I want in red and just cover the rest with the green. Same result probably. So it's more of your process. I
Yeah.
like to apply this kind of steps with glazing. So it's a late part of the work. So after I got already my transition, I got already my volumes, I got already my focal point. Okay, now I'll try to enrich all the shades, all the color, all the transition with some other colors, and then I will go pick, of course, some complementary or some specific color. Maybe there we could use a, a desert base. Um, and so we get a little bit like a orangish, reddish desert. And so I will use this color that I use now for the base. And so there's more color communication. There's no there's no way, the right way and the wrong way. The right way, if you want, is just a balance. It's just a richness of your work, and actual time spent on it, because uh, most most of the techniques uh, are made by layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. Uh,
Okay.
so the good thing is also to get to the results, but smoothly and step by step. Also because if I do a glaze, let's say this red, I will start with a very soft glaze like this. So it doesn't change too much the result, but I can already tell if I like it where I place it.
Yeah.
So I say, yeah, I like on this internal part of the bicep. Okay, I like it a little bit less on that part. Okay, okay. Then I do another glaze on it, and it's like this. Then another one, it's like this, and another one. And I stop
And
where
then
I say, okay,
slowly build up your work.
exactly. And I stop when I say, okay, that's cool, because probably if we go too much, then it's too much, you know. So that's always this balance, and that is really what is difficult.
Sadi,
Just
is your question answered with this?
probably not. Probably now he has the 5 questions.
Is there anyone else that still has a question lurking out there? Like, it's your time to ask now before we move on to the next step.
Yeah, and probably the next step is bye bye because we are already there from.
Yeah.
Well, I've
Well, for me, no problem, but it's a risk to become too much.
no, no. I think we should stop here and
Also, because this is just basic information all around. Now, in in singular meeting, we can discuss specifically about one of these topic.
Is it maybe possible you could show on one of these examples how you would do, for example, one single muscle? Like, let's say, take the orc, do one single muscle, and show how your painting process would be.
Yeah, that was my plan with this amazing miniature. But maybe it's better
Do
now.
the creek.
Yeah, that. Maybe it's now better
Now I fucked up.
the next time full
yeah,
focus on it.
yeah. I think we should do it next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also to have the proper time to explain everything.
Exactly.
So we're calling it here.
Yeah. Let's stop the recording and then we can discuss how we gonna do in the
Yeah.
future. So this recording will be uploaded on YouTube. I will discuss where and how and which channel everything we will notice this in the Discord. I want to thank everybody on that's watching this record. Thanks for watching, and I will stop the recording.